IVC, Dale Gateful 33, back to record this video for the second time, having missed 2 questions out. So yep, so this is a tag response, 80s tag that Graeme over at Kraken Vinyl has put out. Graeme's celebrating 10 years of VC videos. So I've been watching VC videos for 15 years, and I've definitely watched some of Graeme's videos, but for some reason I haven't subbed his channel, or I have now. So apologies for that, and you know, hopefully looking forward to seeing more of Graeme's videos. I did notice when I went to his channel that he's only recently come back, having had a bit of a hiatus, so I hope you keep making videos, and I'll maybe dig through the back catalogue. So yeah, so 20 questions about the 80s. So for me, I've said before in other videos, I think certainly that I was a teenager during the 80s. All bar 2 months of my teenage years were spent in the 1980s. So absolutely brought up on the music of the 80s. When I got into music mags and things like that, magazines, and reading more about music in the 90s and 2000s, I went back and explored the 60s and the 70s and neglected the 80s, and maybe picked up on some of the sort of perception of the 80s that it was a bad decade for music. But certainly the last 5 to 10 years, I've gone back to the 80s and absolutely heavily on the 80s, rediscovering and discovering artists I never even heard of. You know, they didn't enter my enter my psyche or in my environment, the sort of music I was listening to. That just kind of wasn't on my radar, and so yeah, really enjoying the 80s. So this is right up my street. So let's get on with it. I'm doing this for the second time. I missed 2 questions out. How can you miss 2 out? 1's excusable, but 2, ridiculous. Anyway, so I better do this, better concentrate this time. Best video. So this is the one I struggled with the most, probably, because I thought, well, there were loads of great videos, but there's sort of loads of obvious ones that spring to mind. So I just thought I'll try and pick one that's not so obvious. So it's not necessarily my favorite video, but it's a video, or certainly the videos from Sweet Dreams, Eurythmics' Sweet Dreams album, which is the only Eurythmics album I've got, and the only one that I really like. But yeah, though the singles from there all seem to have quite evocative and dark sort of videos to them, and so this one with sort of androgynous looking orange haired Annie Lennox in it sprung to mind. An album from 1983, Marillion, Script for a Jester's Tear, one of my favourite albums from 83, if not my favourite album from 83. I'm a big fan of the Marillion, sort of Fish era Marillion, and this is one of the better ones. Well, they're all good, the Fish era Marillion albums, in my opinion. A 12-inch record, so I've been really getting into and back into 12-inch singles in the last few years, so I just grabbed one, and I love my Sophisti-Pop. So here we've got, and apologies, there's so many records here, I haven't taken them out the sleeve, so apologies particularly to Vinyl Richie, who might be shouting at the screen at my laziness, but hey ho. Yeah, so Don't Talk to Me About Love, Altered Images, love my Sophisti-Pop, that's from their 1983, again 1983 album, A Bite, and yeah, peak Sophisti-Pop, great single. A one-hit wonder, so I'm going to show a couple of things here. I'm going to show a no-hit wonder, I think, Care, and this is Ian Brody and someone else called Paul something or other. Ian Brody obviously went on to bigger things with the Lightning Seeds and as a producer, etc. And yeah, the other person was, I think, from Teardrop Explodes and another band, so a little bit of a super group, but this was, I think it's got to number 48, so not really a hit, but interesting. Flaming Sword, who will buy my flaming sword? Really. So a one-hit wonder, I've gone for the Assembly and Never Never. So this was a sort of, again, a super group-ish collaboration between Vince Clarke and Fergal Sharkey. Didn't last very long. In fact, I think they'd broken up before the single even got released. So I'm being double careful here that I don't miss one out. Record by favourite 80s artist. So I interpret that as somebody who was big in the 80s, if you see what I mean, rather than only in the 80s, because most artists that I know span decades. But certainly my favourite female artist of all time is Kate Bush, and she put out some of her best material, if not her best material, in the 80s. This is the last of her 80s albums, but yeah, she put out 4 albums in the 80s, which for her is incredibly prolific. An 80s dance floor banger. Well, this is a bit embarrassing, but we'll go with this. Spandau Ballet's True. So it's not a banger at all. I'm going to be really careful what I say here. This is 6 minute slow dance. So me in my teenage years would always try and nab a slow dance to this if I could, so I could be in the presence of a girl for 6 minutes, which, as somebody who went to an all boys grammar school, was a rarity. So I'd always try and take the opportunity, if I could, of getting a slow dance with somebody if they would agree to it, in a school dance or disco or a nightclub. Okay, I'll stop there. Most 80s album cover. So now that's what I call music. It's all 80s, obviously all of the 80s fashion, the fonts, the style with the big now that would have been a bit like Wham on the t-shirts, even the sort of layouts. It's very 80s smash hits style. So yeah, that's an 80s album cover. I think obviously it's a comp, so maybe it's a bit of a cheat. 80s favorite Live Aid act. So I definitely watched some of Live Aid. I definitely watched the beginning, and I think I might have watched the end. It was in the summer. I might have been playing cricket. During the day. Probably if it was a summer and it was a weekend, I'd have been playing cricket. So Queen's the obvious choice, and I assume I have to show an 80s album of the act. So this came out in the 80s, because most of my Queen solo albums, well, all my Queen solo albums on vinyl are before the 80s. Band with big hair. So lots of big hair in the 80s. So I'll go with the lovely ladies from Bananarama. There they are with their big hair there. Favorite 80s cover song. So Graeme did mention, obviously the 80s were a lot of cover songs, and I'm sure I was guilty as my children were in the 2000s of saying to my parents, "Cool, listen to this brilliant song," and they would say, "Oh, I remember the original of that," to crush you because you thought you'd discovered something brilliant, and they already knew it from 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Anyway, slightly obscure choice perhaps. I'm going to go with Dirty Old Town by the Pogues, from Rum Sodomy and the Lash, originally a Ewan McCall folk song. So that's my favourite cover, but definitely a good cover song. Forgotten Gem. So my real kind of introduction to music came through soundtracks as a young child, and that's kind of the base for my musical. So anything that's got a bit of a story, a bit of spoken word, a bit of that kind of thing, gets my interest even today. And this single, Madam Butterfly, Malcolm McLaren, it fits into that. So this really intrigued me as a teenager, as a youngster, and still listen to it today and still enjoy it. But I don't think many people would would show it in the VC, but so that's a forgotten gem, I think. A 2-artist collaboration. So Graeme picked the exact 2 that I would have picked. My favourite male artist of all time is David Bowie, and my favourite female artist of all time is Kate Bush, so would have loved to have seen that collaboration. So I'll pick someone different, and I've just gone for a random couple, and I don't know if it would work, so I'll go with Alison Moyet, and I'll go with, from Aztec Camera, I'll go with Roddy Frame. So both kind of nice voices. I don't know if they would work together, but let's find out. Time Machine Act, go back to see live. So I've never seen The Jam, never seen Style Council, never seen Paul Weller. So out of those, I probably would like to have seen the Style Council. So go back to 83, 84 would have been a good time to go back and see the Style Council. A synth pop record. I've got so many synth pop records, but I haven't shown this artist, so let's show Depeche Mode, and this is the sort of where I start, certainly as far as albums go, with Depeche Mode. Black Celebration from 85, I think it is. Before that, I'm fine with the best of, but and the singles. But yeah, Black Celebration, slightly darker sort of leanings, Depeche Mode. Right, this is where I missed out last time, so I need to be doubly careful. Song from a movie. So I'm a big fan of, or was a big fan in the 80s of the John Hughes, as others have shown. This is a great book set. Life Moves Pretty Fast, the John Hughes mixtapes, 4 CDs of songs from the John Hughes films, including, quite a few of them were specially recorded for the films. So yeah, it's got words and pictures in it, but as well as CDs. But what I can do with that, this is where I'm gonna need to be careful that I don't mess up. So I will pick from this film, Pretty in Pink, the closing song, I think it was, although it's the opening track on the album, If You Leave by OMD. So a little bit slushy from quite a slushy John Hughes movie, but yeah, If You Leave by OMD. It's a song from a 80s movie. All right, Hairbrush song. Nobody wants to hear me sing. I'm a terrible singer. But song that I will always sing to if I hear it, even if it's to myself, is Bananarama's Cruel Summer. So that is my Hairbrush song. Urban record, hip hop, soul, dance. So I've got one hip hop album in my collection. I've got 2 copies of it, but I've got one hip hop album, so I might as well show that. Yep, De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising. So this is an original, but I've also got the reissue as well. So yeah, so that's my choice for that question. Who should make a comeback? Well, she's already been mentioned, but I would say, Kate, please give us something else before you hang up your songwriting boots. Do you write your boots? Do you have songwriting boots? Well, I guess you might wear boots while you're songwriting. Before you hang up your songwriting boots, Kate, please give us another release to remember you by, or to have to add to your brilliant canon of music. Right, album your jam in a Walkman. So I have a Walkman. This is a modern Walkman that I do use. This is my We Are Rewind Walkman, and a album that I did jam in it recently was another 83, is it? I think it was. But yeah, Brilliant Trees by David Sylvian. So given that I did jam it in there and play it, that is an album I would jam in my Walkman. 80s crush, several, but I will go with Susanna Hoffs as my 80s crush. Yeah, love the Bangles videos. Everyone knows the eyes in Walk Like an Egyptian could melt any teenage boy, and yeah, and she's still a fine looking woman these days. You know, follow her on Instagram. So yeah, Susanna Hoffs is my choice for that. So I think I've done 20 this time. I'm certainly not recording it again if I haven't. So thanks again for these great prompts, Graeme. Cheers, VC, bye.